A culture of death and of darkness has set in. And it is sweeping the hearts and the minds and the souls of individuals and nations and the world. The reason that we will go and pray, and I say this, it's not primarily to save the physical life of the children. And that, the purpose of the helpers is conversion. It's the salvation of souls. It is the conversion of the abortionist, the people working there, the mother who's coming for an abortion, the boyfriend, all the people who bring her there. Our Holy Father in the Gospel of Life, the encyclical, the Gospel of Life, which you should read, in the first 24 sections, presents to us the problem. And the problem is a culture of death sweeping the world. We have reached a point where we're dealing with a culture of death. I cannot remember the last person outside of an abortion mill that gave me any type of an argument that the child in the womb was a child, that they weren't going to kill a baby. That is a given. I haven't heard anybody argue that in God knows how long. It's years and years and years ago. They used to question. But now, it's my choice, it's my right, I don't want the child. Why should I have to? It's not ready. 1,000 reasons that are given, okay? Now once you start to understand they are killing their own child and know it, you really think euthanasia is far behind for their parents and grandparents? We'd have to be naive. The reality is that the culture of death is so strong and so sweeping that you couldn't even stop it with legislation. Even where it is illegal, it's being done. Like euthanasia, like abortion. You can't stop this. Education, legislation, all of these things obviously are necessary and they're important and they have to be done. But when you reach a point where even if you say to a person, it is a child, it is against the law, and it doesn't make any difference, you now have another problem here. It means a culture of death and of darkness has set in. And it is sweeping the hearts and the minds and the souls of individuals and nations and the world. And it didn't come about by accident. The Holy Father in the encyclical of Life simply says there's an international conspiracy. International. We're talking about people who are calculating, sitting back and planning how to control the population of the world to keep the planet Earth going. And this is the greater problem. And they go about systematically taking and destroying nations and removing from nations Judeo-Christian values and any sense of respect that we have for the absolute dignity and sacredness of each life. And they convince the people that a life is only sacred to the extent that its quality, the quality of the life, is valuable or meaningful or worth living. And when it's not, it's lost its dignity. And better off you should die now with dignity than hang around a while and lose your dignity. I was introducing Dr. Bernard Nathanson, and I found it interesting in speaking to the college people there. And I said to them, you know, back in the 70s, Dr. Bernard Nathanson and I were at odds with each other. He comes from New York. He's the one who set up the first abortion freestanding clinic, really. He really put it on the map. And at his particular clinic, in a year or two, 75,000 babies were killed. He himself killed 5,000, including his own son. And he was the one who was the first president of NARAL in the United States, the National Abortion Rights League. And he and I were at odds. And I said, you know, he was my enemy. And I thought, mistakenly, he was also God's enemy. I said, but I've come to the realization, Almighty God has no enemies. We are the enemies of God, but God is the enemy of no one. Dr. Bernard Nathanson was being sought by the hound of heaven, by Almighty God, all these years. He started off as an atheist, and then he finally came to a belief in God. And as you probably know, on December 8th, 1996, in St. Patrick's Cathedral, Cardinal O'Connor baptized Dr. Bernard Nathanson. God was always seeking with love Dr. Bernard Nathanson, and he got him. And I said, I want to introduce to you my friend and God's friend, who was never an enemy of God, and now is both a friend of God and myself, Dr. Bernard Nathanson. I mention that because this is the important thing. It's not simply being present outside of an abortion mill that matters. Definitely we should be there. Someone should be there from the pro-life movement to give credibility. If you really believe that the children are dying, and they are, and the mothers are being exploited, and they are, then someone from the pro-life movement should be there reaching out and trying to help and to save the child and to help the mother from not being exploited. This is absolutely true. This is necessary. But it is also absolutely true and necessary how we are present at the abortion mill that makes all the difference in the world. We go tomorrow, but we go with no one being the enemy. We're going there, not us versus them. This is incredibly important. We have a problem. The problem is this: a culture of death and people in darkness, people without light, people who are in error, people who are caught up in death. They are incapable. You can't get light from darkness, life from death, truth from error. It's not possible. You could spend all of your time cursing the darkness, cursing the errors, cursing the death, and wasting your time. Or you come in and you put on the light. Our job is not to become upset with the person going in to have the abortion tomorrow and say, how could they do this? They can do it because they don't see the light. They can do